Good evening, everyone. This week's Parsha is Parshas Beha'aloscha, Tavshin Pei Vav 5786. We will begin from the beginning of the Parsha, Parak Ches, chapter 8, Parak Ches, chapter 8, Pasuk Aleph, verse 1. Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe Lemar. Hashem said to Moshe, saying, Daber el Aaron, speak to Aaron, V'amar to Elav, and say to him, Beha'aloscha es haneros, when you light the candles, meaning the candles of the menorah, el mul pnei menorah, toward the face of the menorah, meaning towards the middle branch, Ye'ir shavas haneros, shall the seven lamps give light. Okay. Now, so the word, so first of all, it's important to note that the word Beha'aloscha, which we translate as when you kindle, Hashem is telling Moshe, tell Aaron, when you light these candles, right, they have these lamps, these holders inside in the menorah. That's where the oil and the wick is. And you have to light the candles in a way that they all kind of are tilted and lighting towards the middle. That's the way the menorah is supposed to be lit. And the word that's used for lighting is Beha'aloscha, which really means when you raise up. But that's another word for lighting. Now, we're going to focus on Rashi. There's a Rashi here that is a very, very, very famous Rashi. It's really a medrash, and there's a lot to talk about. So Rashi cites a medrash that asks the following question. Last week's parsha ended off with the gifts of the princes. What the princes gave for the Chanukas HaMizbeach, dedication of the altar. The Mishkan had been erected, and all the princes of the tribes brought their own gifts. They brought actually gifts together. They brought these covered wagons with oxen, and they also, each one of their own, brought their own gifts. And that's last week's parsha. And then this week's parsha begins with telling Aaron about lighting the menorah. So the Medrash wants to know, what's the connection between the two? The fact that one leads into the other, what's the connection between them? And that's what Rashi says. Lama nismacha parshas hamenorah parshas hanesiim. Why is the portion dealing with the menorah, why is it next to the portion that deals with the gifts of the princes? And Rashi answers, Lafi shekasher ra'a Aaron chanukas hanesiim. When Aaron saw the dedication gifts given by the princes, chol shadaitoi, he felt bad. He felt dejected. Shaloi haya imoyem b'chanukah, because he did not participate with them in the dedication. Lo yehu v'lo shiftei, not he nor his tribe. Amar le'akadosh baruch hu, Hashem said to him, Chayecha, be assured, shalcha gadolim mishalahem, yours is greater than theirs. Shata madlik u'meitev haneros, because you have the mitzvah of lighting and preparing the menorah for lighting. That's the medrash. Aaron feels bad. He wasn't part of the dedication. And Hashem says, don't feel bad. You have a greater portion than they do. What is that? The menorah.
So what, menorah mentioned before?
Yeah.
In this case, we know what is menorah.
Yeah. The menorah is mentioned before. Actually, more than once. Okay. Now, there's a lot to examine here. Number one, there must be a reason why Aaron and the tribe of Levi didn't participate. What happened? They forgot? They just forgot? They were too busy? There had to be some kind of a reason. For some reason, it would seem to me, I don't have this fully worked out, but at some degree, I was thinking that, this was a dedication of the altar. Dedication of, the Mishkan had been erected, and now the altar is about to start being used on a regular basis, and now they dedicate it with gifts. Aaron and the Leviim, the tribe of Levi, they work in the Mishkan. They're the people who serve in the Mishkan. And therefore, it was like for them to be part of the dedication didn't fit in because they're part of the Mishkan. They're what's being dedicated to a certain degree. The Mishkan is being dedicated by the tribes of Israel, who now the Mishkan serves, so to speak, the Mishkan services, so to speak. And Aaron and the tribe of Levi, they're part of the Mishkan that serves the Jewish people. and therefore it didn't really fit for them to be part of the dedication, because the dedication is a dedication of the Mishkan, of the at least the altar of the Mishkan, and Aaron and the tribe of Levi, they're there to serve and administer the Mishkan, and therefore, for some reason, that made it not their place to be part of the dedication.
Like a sacrifice.
What do you mean like a sacrifice?
No, but there is no sacrifice for Kohen.
I don't know what you mean. The princes brought sacrifices.
Yes, but Levi, Levi
Yeah,
make a sacrifice
Sure.
also?
sure. Not here, but other times. Other times when people have to bring sacrifices, people from the tribe of Levi bring sacrifices.
For yourself?
Yeah. Kohanim do also.
Okay.
So the Kohanim are like the Kohanim and the Leviim, they do both. They administer and they also are like everybody else. But I don't have a good explanation. But it's something I was thinking that something on those lines, that since they are the ones who serve in the Mishkan, they're part of the Mishkan. So then the dedication, so then it's not for them to be part to make a dedication of what they're being dedicated towards, so to speak. But let's not focus on that so much. But let's assume that there was a reason why they didn't participate, not just because they were lazy or because they forgot, because they were too busy. There was a reason. The only thing is then that if there's a reason why they didn't participate, then why does Aaron feel bad? That if there's a reason why not to do it, then why do you feel bad?
Maybe he didn't know reason.
He didn't know the reason. So I like to suggest
We don't know.
We don't know. Doesn't mean there isn't a reason. Again, if we're assuming that it wasn't just because he forgot, he was too busy. If we're gonna assume that way, there was some kind of a reason why not to, then why feel bad? So I like to suggest the following with a story. Now we know that a Kohen may not participate. There's a certain mitzvah that a Kohen is not allowed to participate in. Not allowed. What's that mitzvah? Funeral. Right? The mitzvah of giving a person their final respect. To a large, I mean, they can participate from afar, but not from close. They can't go onto the cemetery. They can't participate in the mitzvah of burying the dead. They can't do it.
What about the instance of the high priest on his way?
Well, that's a base mitzvah. That's the exception. Now, so one time I saw a story. The story I saw written from Rabbi Nachum Eisenstein, Zechreinu Livracha. He was here in Boston. And he used to and then he became, after he left Boston, became a rabbi in Lakewood. And he used to put out a weekly Dvar Torah. And in the Dvar Torah, he brought the following story from Rabbi Pesach Krohn, if you've ever heard of him. And Rabbi Krohn had the following story. In a certain city, I don't remember which one it was, they had to open a new cemetery. You know, when real estate is sold in a cemetery, right? It's the year that person, there's that space will be taken. And eventually cemeteries fill up, right? So they had to make a new cemetery.
There's no grave. It's new.
It's new. Now, typically, it would seem that the way that the process was done was that, it's not like, I don't know. Let's assume that, let's put it this way. When the people in charge of digging the grave came to the new cemetery when the first person died, who was going to be buried there, they came to dig the grave and they found the grave was already dug.
Yes. Remember you told the story.
Yeah, already dug. And they tried to find out who dug the grave. And eventually they found out it was a Kohen who dug the grave. The Kohen said to himself, he said, I never have a chance to perform the mitzvah. But now there's nobody there in the new cemetery. I can go, I can dig the grave, I can have the mitzvah. And that's what he did. Okay? Right. Now, that Kohen didn't say, look, I'm a Kohen. I can't do the mitzvah. And that's just the way it is. He wanted to do the mitzvah. He can't do the mitzvah, but he really wanted to do the mitzvah. And when he had the chance, he went and he did the mitzvah. So the same thing, Aaron may have had a reason why not to participate in the dedication of the Mishkan, of the Mizbeach, of the altar. But it doesn't mean that he doesn't feel bad that he's not part of it. He still feels bad he's not part of it. It wasn't for him to do. It was, for some reason, it wasn't appropriate for them to participate in the dedication. But it doesn't mean he didn't feel bad. Just like the Kohen. Just like a Kohen who can't do the mitzvah because he's a Kohen. Hashem exempts him. Hashem says, you don't have to do the mitzvah. Can't do the mitzvah. I don't want you to do the mitzvah. But deep down, they still want to do it. They know what a great mitzvah it is and they want to do it. So here too, Aaron understood that he was exempt from participating in the dedication, but he still wanted to do it. And he wanted to do it so much that Hashem actually responded to him. And Hashem said, don't worry, yours is greater because you're going to be lighting the menorah. So now, the next thing we have to deal with is what Ramban Nachmanides asks, and that is, okay, so Hashem says, well, they're just dedicating, you're going to do the mitzvah of lighting the menorah. But the Ramban asks, but there's other things that Aaron did also. He didn't just light the menorah. He brought the ketoras, he brought the incense. He had a daily meal offering that he brought half in the morning, half in the afternoon. He had the service of Yom Kippur where he went to the Kodesh HaKadoshim. There were a lot of things that Aaron was going to do. Why are we talking about specifically the lighting of the menorah more than anything else that he does? That's the Ramban's question. The Ramban answers, based on a medrash, actually based on two midrashim, that actually what's being alluded to here in this medrash, meaning when Hashem says to Aaron that yours is greater because you light the candles, actually what that means is what we're referring to here or what we're alluding to here is seemingly is not the lighting of the menorah itself in the Mishkan, but referring to a future lighting of the menorah. A future lighting of the menorah that is going to be very unique to Aaron's descendants. And when was that?
In synagogue?
No. Well, what do you mean? No. What do you mean?
No, we have lighting in any synagogue. Lighting.
Lighting what?
In temple.
Lighting what? No. Which if they're lighting in the temple, the same thing lighting in the Mishkan. The answer is, I'll read to you the wording of the Medrash. The Medrash wording is, Hashem said to Aaron, Yesh Chanukah Acheres, there's going to be another dedication, Sheyesh Ba'adlakas Neiris, that will involve the lighting of the candles of the menorah. V'ani Oisba Yisrael al Yedei Banecha, and I shall do it through your descendants. Nisim u'Teshua v'Chanukah, miracle, salvation, and rededication. Shekruya al Shmam, that's called by their name. And that is Hanukkah.
Why is Hanukkah?
What do you mean by Hanukkah? Hanukkah was Aaron's descendants. What did they do? They fought the wars. They were ready to give up their lives. And through them, there was the miracle of the war. There was the miracle of the menorah. They took back the Beis HaMikdash, the holy temple. They rededicated it. That's what we're referring to over here. When Hashem said to Aaron that yours is greater, because you light the menorah, is referring to or alluding to the future lighting of the menorah of his descendants. That they will light the menorah by the Hanukkah miracle, which will be part of the whole rededication of the second base of the second temple, the second Beis HaMikdash. The Greeks took the second Beis HaMikdash, they defiled it, they stopped the service in it, and when the descendants of Aaron, the Chashmonoim, who were Kohanim, brought back the service of the Beis HaMikdash. A major part of that, bringing back the service of the Beis HaMikdash, rededicating it, was the lighting of the menorah and the miracle that was part of the lighting of the menorah. And that is what we're referring to here. When Hashem says to Aaron, yours is greater than theirs, it's because you will be the one, your descendants will participate in a rededication of the Beis HaMikdash that will include the lighting of menorah in a miraculous way and a salvation for the Jewish people.
Who said this is from Russia?
This is from the Ramban.
Ramban.
Nachmanides, and he's citing a medrash. There's another medrash that's very similar, that where the wording of this other medrash Tanchuma, the medrash says, don't worry, Aaron, you're destined for something greater. The sacrifices are only around as long as the Beis HaMikdash is around. But the candles of the menorah, they are always going to be here. They'll always be around. So the question is, what do you mean they'll always be around? If there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's no temple, there's no lighting of the menorah, right? The answer is, again, this medrash is referring to the lighting of the candles of the menorah of Hanukkah. That yours is greater, says the medrash, because the karbanis are they stop when there's no Beis Hamikdash. But the lighting of the menorah, which is what you're going to be doing now, that is going to continue forever. How is that? Through the lighting of the Hanukkah candles. Okay, so now the Ramban tells us that the meaning behind this medrash is not simply the lighting of the menorah of the Mishkan, but something of the future. And that something of the future is going to be even bigger and greater than what all the princes are doing now. Okay, but we have to explain two things. Number one, but the pasuk is talking about the lighting of the menorah in the Mishkan, right? It's not talking about the lighting of the menorah in the times of Hanukkah.
Yes.
The pasuk is talking about the menorah in the Mishkan. Okay, so therefore we have to somehow or another make a connection here. We have to make a connection between the lighting of the menorah in the Mishkan and that future lighting to say that you'll be part of a greater Hanukkah. The lighting of the menorah is eternal, but we're talking about the Mishkan. We're talking about the menorah now. I mean, the pasuk is talking about the menorah now. So we have to make a connection between the two. So there are those who say that the way to make that connection is that actually the Hanukkah menorah is the same light as the light of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. The light of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash isn't just a candle burning; it's an energy, and it brings down an energy and a light from heaven down to the Jewish people, and that actually continues with the Hanukkah menorah. That holy light, that holy energy that we had through the menorah, we have that also, again, in a smaller degree, but we have that also in the Hanukkah menorah. But I'll explain that, but I'd like to explain it in a different way. And I have this idea I mentioned many times, from a Rabbi Emanuel Bernstein. He lives in Israel. And he said over this idea from a work called Ben Melech. And I don't think I'm using it exactly how he used it. I don't think it's exactly the same way, but the idea comes from what he mentioned. Okay, and that is like this. The menorah in the Mishkan and the Tabernacle Beis Hamikdash had a daily miracle happen to it. Daily miracle. A miracle similar to the miracle of Hanukkah. Similar. And that is that every evening, Aaron would every morning, he would prepare the candles to be lit at night. He lights it at night. It burns through the night until the next morning. There's enough oil in the candles to burn to the next morning. So the next morning, he should come back and see all the candles are out. But that isn't what happened, because there was one candle, the Ner Maravi, the Western candle, that continued to burn miraculously until the time came for him to put it out. He would put it out, change the oil, change the wicks, light it again the next evening. But a miracle happened every day with the menorah that Ner Maravi burnt longer than everything else, even though it should have gone out just like they did. But every day it burnt longer. And that miracle, our sages say, is to show that the Shekhinah rests amongst the Jewish people. Divine presence rests amongst the Jewish people. That's what the menorah tells us. The message of the menorah is that its candle, the candle that burns, the candle that miraculously burns, that miracle shows us that Hashem's divine presence rests amongst the Jewish people. And if you think about that other medrash that we mentioned, the second medrash, the medrash Tanchuma, that says the karbanos are temporary and the menorah is eternal. So the idea behind that is, when we say the karbanos are temporary, that means the Nesiim were dedicating the altar. The altar is for the sacrifices. When there's no Beis Hamikdash, there's no sacrifices. But the menorah will always be there. So what's the meaning behind? What's the deeper meaning behind that? So the meaning behind it is the following: the karbanos, the sacrifices that we have, that's a pipeline between us and Hashem. The karbanos We bring the karmanos, and through that, Hashem now sends us his blessing into the world. So the karbanos represents a connection that we have with Hashem. We have this connection, and through that connection, he gives us blessing. And that's a good connection. That's a strong connection to have. When we don't have the sacrifices, what gives us that connection? What? What gives that connection when we don't have sacrifices?
Prayer.
Prayer. Very good. Prayer replaces sacrifices. Is it as good a pipeline as sacrifices? In many ways, not. But that's what we have in place for the sacrifices. Okay, but that's what sacrifices represent. But the menorah, as we just said, represents something greater. It tells us there's more than just a pipeline. Hashem Shechina rests amongst the Jewish people. He's there within us. And that exists even after there's no Beis HaMikdash. When there's no Beis HaMikdash, there's no pipeline. That pipeline is gone. But that the Shechina rests amongst the Jewish people, the menorah is still there to tell us that. And it was the menorah of Hanukkah that showed us that. The menorah of Hanukkah showed us that when Hashem made the miracles of the Hanukkah menorah, that it burned for 8 nights when it should only burn for 1 night, together with all the miracles of the war that the Maccabees fought against the Syrian Greeks. All those miracles showed that Hashem is in our midst. So the point of saying that the menorah, the Hanukkah menorah, is a continuation of the menorah of the Beis HaMikdash, means to say that the message of the menorah, or what the menorah does for us, what the menorah tells us, that the Shekhinah, the divine presence of Hashem, rests within us, that message, that energy continues with the Hanukkah menorah. The Hanukkah menorah continues to tell us that, because the story, the miracle of the Hanukkah menorah, the miracle of Hanukkah, was a miracle that showed us that even in the dark Golas, even when everything was dark and everything seemed terrible, everything seemed lost, when a few people, when a small amount of people dedicated themselves to bring back the service of the Beis HaMikdash Jewish people, Hashem performed miracles for them. And those miracles showed that the Shekhinah, by presence, still rests within the Jewish people. And that's what the Hanukkah menorah does every year. It reminds us that even in Gullus, even in the darkness of the exile, the Shekhinah still rests within us. So therefore, the Karbanis, what they did is temporary. But what the menorah did, meaning the message of the menorah, which we could all say the energy of the menorah, that, again, may not be the same as it was when we had the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash. But the essence of what the menorah tells us is still there. It's there in the Hanukkah menorah. It's there more than it's there, while what the Karbanis gave us, not there. Had to be replaced with sacrifices. It's not the same. What the Hanukkah menorah does, and it may not be as clear and as great as the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash, but it's the same idea. It's the same lesson. It's the same message, and it's the same energy. That Hashem Shechina rests in our midst. So therefore, when Hashem says to Aaron, you're going to light the menorah, and you're lighting the menorah now, but understand, the lighting of the menorah now is going to be part of, the menorah you're lighting now is the start of what the menorah is going to be later on, when there's going to be another dedication of the Beis HaMikdash. The lighting of the menorah that you do now is going to be there then, as part of a greater dedication, as part of a dedication that's going to come with miracles. It's going to be part of your mitzvah of the menorah is something that's going to last longer than the Karbanis, because it all continues in the Hanukkah menorah. That's what the Ramban can mean. When the Ramban says to Aaron, you're going to be part of a future Hanukkah. How does that connect to the menorah? Because it's that same menorah. The same point of what the menorah does now is going to be part of that dedication in a miraculous way, as part of a rededication of the second Beis HaMikdash in the Hanukkah story. And it's going to be something that is eternal, because even after the Hanukkah story, there's going to be the lighting of the Hanukkah menorah, which is going to continue that message that the Shekhinah rests amongst the Jewish people. How much time we got, Martin?
9 minutes.
9 minutes, yeah.
I did not expect like connection.
Well, I didn't make
This
it.
is menorah directly is Torah. There is nothing in Torah about Hanukkah.
Okay, but
it's rabbinical.
It's the Medrash.
No, but it's rabbinical rule to light menorah.
Correct.
They can do it. They can. This is like I didn't understand. This is what is how this is how it's how much.
Because we have to understand, it first starts with the miracle of the menorah on the Hanukkah story of the menorah of the Beis Hamikdash. Right? It starts with that. That's where it starts. It starts with the miracle of the menorah in the Beis Hamikdash. That's where it starts.
I understand, but for me, people understand. He talking is this about to light menorah?
Yes.
Thinking about future. What is rabbinical? This is not. He did not say anything about menorah at all.
Exactly. Arkady, there's a lot of things that are not in the Chumash itself, but we say based on the Medrash that there's more to what you see in the Chumash. It's always that way, But we always try to make.
Sometimes easy to understand. Sometimes
okay, I understand. I get that. I understand what you're saying, and it's an interesting question about the fact that if we talk about even the Hanukkah menorah as it continues, which is a rabbinic mitzvah, that is a very interesting idea. But it would seem to be that again, if you're talking about the first Medrash talks about the rededication that'll happen later. Okay. That's that.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the other medrash that talks about that the Hanukkah lights are going to that the menorah is going to continue, that has to refer to the fact that as pointed out, as Rambam points out, it's alluding to the Neres Chanukah's Hashmonai Shinohegas Afla Achav Chorban Megolasenu. It still continues even in the Golas. That L'chara is not just referring to the lighting of the menorah in the second Beis Hamikdash. That would seem to be referring to the lighting of the Hanukkah menorah itself, which yes is rabbinic, and yes, you're bringing out a good point. That's a very unique idea about the fact that rabbinic mitzvah has the ability to continue that light of the menorah. That's a very good point. It's a very good point.
Okay.
Now. Another thing about this pasuk where it says Beha'aloscha saneres, where I pointed out that the word Beha'aloscha means when you light, but Beha'aloscha literally means when you bring up, or actually, according to one explanation in Rashi, it actually means when you go up. So Rashi says like this: Rashi, the word Beha'aloscha. Why did it, instead of saying light, it said bring up, raise up? So the first thing is al shem shahalav oila, being that a flame rises. Therefore, the word bring up, raise up, is an appropriate word that's used for lighting. Why use that word specifically here? Because you need to light the wick until the flame rises on its own. Now, what that means is that you have to make the wick in a way that you light it and the flame goes up. It would seem like sometimes if you didn't make the wick good enough, you'd light it and you'd have to play around with it, fix it up. Maybe you'd have to take the whole holder and tilt the oil over to the wick so it should burn better. The point is, Beha'aloscha, you need to light it. You need to prepare it in a way that when you light it, it's just going to, the flame is going to go up and nothing more needs to be done. That's one explanation. The other explanation is that actually that the word Beha'aloscha isn't referring to that choice of word is not referring to how you light, but in the manner of how you light. Meaning, our sages learned derived from here. There was a step before the menorah. He would stand on the kohen and stand on it, and that's how he would prepare the candles, and that's how he would light the candles. All right, so let me ask you a question. Why did he need a step to be able to light the menorah? No, it's not a trick question. Not a trick question. Why would a kohen need a step to go up on to light the menorah?
What means step?
like a little step, like a little step stool. They had one. Why would they have one? Well, the answer is what?
The fire?
Why should it be higher?
Yes, no.
It should be higher.
This is little.
So it would seem that so the explanation that some of the commentaries say is, well, if the Kohen was short and he couldn't reach the top of the menorah,
Well,
there was a step.
Okay.
The menorah was, I can't remember the exact, I have it written down somewhere in my notes, but it could have been about almost 6 feet high, around 6 feet high, possibly. So if the Kohen was a little on the short side, he would step on the step to be able to light it. So it kind of bothered me, like, is that so important to have to tell us? That's so important to have to tell us? So it would seem, I was thinking that maybe it's not, if you're a tall Kohen, right? So you walk over and you light it. But if you can't reach it, right, and you put a step there and now you make yourself higher than the menorah, maybe it's not so respectful. Maybe it's an idea. But I want to share with you an interesting idea, which is an interesting way of explaining this point. All right, a Kohen, right? When a Kohen duchens, right? When a Kohen gives the blessings, right? He has to put his hands, right? To do his hands. And his hands are supposed to go above their heads. That's where their hands are supposed to be. The halacha is, the Gemara says that I'm sorry. Right, meaning their hands are supposed to be high up above their heads. Not like this necessarily, but above their heads. Okay, that's where they hold their hands. So in the Beis Hamikdash, the Kohanim in the Beis Hamikdash recite the Birchas Kohanim with their hands raised above their heads. Maybe, I'm not sure what that means. Maybe I didn't look this up well enough. Maybe it means higher than what the Kohanim raise their hands now. I don't know. But it says in the Beis Hamikdash, the Kohanim, when they gave the Birchas Kohanim, the priestly blessings, they raised their hands above their heads. But the Kohen Gadol couldn't do that. He couldn't raise his hands above his head. Why? Because Kohen Gadol wore the tzitz, the head plate. And the name of Hashem was written on the head plate. So therefore, he couldn't raise his hands above his head, because then his hands would be above Hashem's name. That would be disrespectful. So his hands had to be lower than all the other Kohanim's hands. So there's a commentary that wants to say that the same way that Aaron couldn't raise his hands above his head for the purpose of the priestly blessings, he couldn't do the same thing when he lit the menorah. If he wouldn't have a step, right? So what would he have to do? He'd have to lift up his hand, right, above his head to get to the top. But then it would be above his head. It would be above the head plate that sits. His hand would be above Hashem's name, and therefore the step was for the Kohen Gadol, who couldn't reach it without lifting his hand above his head, which would be a problem. So he could stand on the step and light it without that problem. Have a wonderful day. Wonderful evening. Thank you for listening.
This is nobody guess. It is a really trick question.